Hey everyone, just started the spaces a little bit early for sound check and to get everyone in. Thanks for joining us. We usually do these AMAs on Discord, and this is one of our first Twitter spaces, so excited to have you with us. We'll kick off in about 7 minutes, the main kind of show, but in the meantime, I'm just going to poke around Twitter spaces and invite our co-hosts. So again, thank you all so much for joining. All right, I just posted it on our status. I'm going to try to keep an eye on the log right now. So yeah, if you go to our Twitter page and you hit the "and we're live," join us for today's infrastructure AMA. If y'all want to reply to that, ask questions, say hey, I'll be monitoring that while we're doing the live system. A little bit less ideal than Discord's live chat feed, but we're going to try it out. We're really excited to have you guys all with us here today. For anyone who's just tuning in and trying to understand who we are and what we do, we're LAMINA1 Official. This is Ivy St. Ive. I'm our content and community director, and we just launched our mainnet literally last week on May 28th, and we're doing a catch-up with our engineers to talk about the launch and also to give you guys a sneak peek into the infrastructure of LAMINA1 and all the cool stuff that is going on the back end of the platform that we just launched to you all. So again, thanks so much for joining us. Gonna keep waiting for our co-hosts and keep sound checking and clicking around, but just wanted to make sure you guys can hear me and that you guys know myself out. All right. Let's see here. We'll kick off in about 4 minutes. And we are recording this session, so if you have to leave halfway through, we'll make sure to post it on our Discord and on our Twitter right after the fact. Sorry this is so early, guys. Again, new Twitter space person. Just wanted to make sure I was here bright and early. You guys just get to hear me typing, inviting everyone on our Discord to join. right, 2 minutes away, everybody. Thanks so much for joining. I wish I had hold music for you all. All right, almost time to start. I can see my devs in my question list Google Doc clicking on the link. That's a play-by-play. This is kind of reminiscent of last week's AMA live stream, which was very funny. All right, our hosts are here. Inviting Baltazar and Bernie to our speakers list.
Hello.
Hey, Bernie. Your voice sounds good. Balta, I just invited you as a speaker. All right, Balta, you got it. Do you want to give us a quick sound check before we kick off, Balta?
Hello, everyone. Yeah,
All
can
right.
you hear me?
Yep.
Perfect.
Great. All right, couple more speakers we'll add, and then we'll kick off. Adding Will now. Oh, just approved Will as a speaker. Hopefully Twitter Spaces will catch up with us here. All right, Will, you want to give us a quick sound check?
Check.
All right, you sound a little tinny, but you sound good.
Little tinny. All right, I'm gonna.
No, wait. Now you're doing better.
All right. I don't want to be tinny. Are you sure?
No, you're good. It was just the initial part of it. Well, we're at a critical mass right now. We've got most of us here. I'll keep an eye out for Gordo when he comes in, but thank you guys all so much for joining this week's AMA and following us over from the Discord to our Twitter Spaces. We're trying out something new this week, trying to reach a bunch more people now that we're mainnet launch. So thanks for joining us, and hope you enjoy listening here as much as you do in our sort of normal place and location. So yeah, in this session, for what many of you guys know, we launched and started onboarding to the LAMINA1 mainnet last week on May 28th, and it has been an absolute whirlwind. We activated a consensus. We've been tracking down bugs, and we've been battling bots, and it's been kind of an iconic week. But yeah, we basically just wanted to give you all a catch up on our mainnet launch status. And I'm joined today by a bunch of our engineers to give you guys a deep dive behind the on-chain infrastructure powering content and creation on the LAMINA1 Hub. So as I said, for this AMA, we're going to hear from L1 engineers, Baltasar Aroso, Bernardo Cardoso, Will Carter, and others, while previewing some new info that we're basically going to be releasing to you all in our upcoming mainnet infrastructure white paper, which is going to be dropping to the community sometime over the next couple of weeks. So I guess to kick off, Bernie, Balta, welcome. You two in particular are usually very much behind the scenes building and coding while we do these AMAs. So to kick off, do you guys want to introduce yourself quickly to the community? Who you guys are, what you do, what you guys have been building for LAMINA1?
Sure, I can go first. My name is Bernardo, and yeah, I've been working in blockchain and Web3 for 6 to 7 years now, and I'm mostly in charge of all the backend stuff in LAMINA1. So, creating the actual blockchain, the subnet, interfacing with the Avalanche team. I did some research as well on Avalanche protocol and stuff like that, and also building our other backend infrastructure like the ID bot and the Spaces server and the on-chain smart contracts that we use for identity as well. That's like a quick review.
Amazing. And Balta, do you want to give yourself a quick intro too?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm Baltazar. I basically do more on the full stack thing. So I kind of like do the bridge between the complexity of Web3 and the user experience, trying to make it a bit more easier for the users, trying to implement everything we're building on the background, on the back stages, more towards the front end. And yeah, like a bit of architecture and blockchain in the middle.
Awesome. So yeah, we've got front end, we've got very back end, and then of course you've got me, community manager, and then Will, do you want to just say a quick hello? Pretty much everyone knows you. Will's on these like almost every week with me, but you want to say hi real quick?
Hey everyone, great to see you post mainnet launch.
Yeah. All right. So again, we're a little bit more than a week into mainnet launch. And I just wanted to kind of kick things off, guys. Like, how has it been going? What have you guys been working on? And like, what are the big kind of things that you've been kind of chasing or tracking down over the last week of launch?
Yeah, I can answer that one. So it's been actually super exciting to see like the engagement from the community, and that was like a great delightful surprise. And the main bugs are just like maintenance stuff. So nothing big. Make sure the wallet connections with MetaMask and Web3 off is like go smooth. Between the transition of BetaNet and Mainnet, the claims and all of that like is like also easy to for the users to go through. So those were like a bit more the main bugs, and we're flashing out new features as we go because of like how engaging the community is. So basically, we need to buckle up and speed up because there's a lot to do.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I mean, I guess Balto, like before we dive into questions, so we got kind of like over 200 questions over the last 48 hours from the community, but I know the kind of reason why we wanted to do this AMA was we were kind of talking on the conference floor and in meetings earlier, and you're like, I'd love to give folks an overview on some of the like back end magic or things that you've kind of built behind the hub. So I don't know if you want to kind of dive in, and also Bernie, feel free to chime in, but like from a top line level, what do you guys feel or think like makes the platform that we've just been developing so powerful for the open metaverse builders and creators? Like, what have you guys been building, and like how is it different from other chains and platforms out there?
I think the key aspect of it is nowadays is like Web3 is super complex in a way, and was built more like in the first steps were very complex, and that complexity on how to set up a wallet, how to interact with the wallet what you could potentially do on chain. Those were kind of like tricky for a rookie person on coming from Web 2 to like actually understand and navigate through the platforms. So what we're trying to build here is still have the functionality, but build it in a black box that the user doesn't need to deal with. So improve the user experience there. And that's like, even though sometimes doesn't seem to be very complex, but whenever you're dealing with interoperability within different chains, and also whenever you're dealing with creating like items, NFTs, like, and allowing the user to set up their profiles, their identity on chain is not trivial in a way. So that comes with a lot of infrastructure, architectural decisions, because we want to be in this decentralized era of Web3, but at the same time make it like easy to use and easy to understand while navigating through the hub. So that's like, that was, I would say, the biggest challenge that we had to face, and I think we did like quite a good job there. And yeah, the complexity is more towards connecting these two worlds of you coming from Web 2, but you want to step in Web 3, but not have the headache of understanding every single complex term, and you want to feel comfortable and confident while navigating through the platform and interacting with on-chain stuff.
Yeah, I can add some to that. Is I believe we're trying to do at LAMINA1 a bit different than other chains. Is we're doing the UX or user facing first. So we'll be like, okay, we want to do a new feature. How is this supposed to work for the user? How can we make it easy? And then we work backwards from that to see, okay, how can we implement this in a backend or in a smart contract, wherever it's needed, to make it happen, to be quite easy to use, so we can abstract that complexity away. Of course, there's an iterative process here, because sometimes you want to create something that will be quite impossible to do. So there needs to be some give and go here. And that's what happened when we started building identity, for example. We had some ideas that we had to abandon because it wasn't feasible. But yeah, especially looking forward, it's going to be exciting to start developing more and more features, and hopefully we can always make them easy to use, as they have been so far, in my opinion, at least.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys, for that. I feel like that's super important to kind of talk about. It's a big question that we get a lot from, partners and community members, investors, all of that stuff. All right, so now let's dive into some questions. So as I said before, we got over 200 from the community over the last 48 hours, and I definitely want to get through as many as we can before opening up the floor for some live Q&A. So, all right, Mandy asks, congrats on Mainnet. Were there any sort of like surprises or anything that you guys encountered during launch that you weren't expecting?
I think the main ones were more towards the mobile experience, and we knew that like that wasn't our first and main focus. So I think that's where we had to tackle more issues. But overall, I think the biggest surprises was like how engaging the community was, which was great.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, never surprises me, but it's good. It's good when we can surprise you guys with a lot of transaction volume and a lot of interest. I'm just Bell asks, what was the most challenging part of the launch? Will, I think you said you were going to take this one.
Yeah, sure. I mean, mainnet launches or any launch is always a really challenging exercise that brings like the entire team together. For us, like particularly, like we've been supporting the existing beta net, building new features, deploying new infrastructure, coordinating with our partners like Avalanche, Web3 Auth, migrating users over between beta net and mainnet, and some of the headaches that come with that, updating docs, migrating domains. And then like we were trying to do all this while getting ready for consensus. And of course, the bane of my existence, trying to get Discord bots up and running for you guys for the faucet. So this particular mainnet launch was really like a challenge of juggling a lot of moving pieces while trying to get ready for consensus, while trying to migrate a lot of active users to a new platform. And of course, like I've said this before, but we are like a fairly small team. I mean, the people on the stage right now are essentially the bulk of the engineering team. So it's really a testament to how capable and the quality of our team overall that we've gotten to this point. Um, and we're able to launch Mainnet in a relatively seamless fashion. But we are small, so it's always been a challenge to move quickly and get everything into a place where we think you'll be happy with it. But I think, like in general, it was a challenging launch for sure. But I think we all enjoyed it. We all had a good time. Like we were pushing code from a plane on the way to Austin. So it was an adventure for sure. But it was good.
Yeah, you guys should have seen the chat log on the night before we launched was crazy. It was like all of us coming in through thunderstorms and just being like, let's hope you have Wi-Fi on the plane. And it was, fun and crazy in all of the best team building bonding ways. We got an anonymous user who asked, Lamina1 utilizes Avalanche as a base layer. Can you explain the technical advantages of this approach, particularly with regards to scalability and interoperability? So like, why choose Avalanche as a base layer, and like what types of benefits do we get from that on Lamina1?
Yeah, I can take that one. So scalability is a big deal, and Avalanche as a consensus protocol, that's one of the most scalable around, and was novel at the time, and it's one of my favorites actually. So I've researched the Avalanche consensus since seven years ago, and yeah, it's really proving to work as intended. So it will let teams like us launch subnets, right? Launch their own sovereign chains that can easily scale separate to other subnets or separate to the Avalanche chain while still maintaining interoperability. How? Because all the validators on each of these subnets, they are always validating the main chain of Avalanche as well. So they have registered keys on this chain that make it possible that all these subnets know about each other's validator sets. This means that they can communicate with each other, which is very, very powerful. So now with the launch of Avalanche Warp messaging, you can send messages in between subnets that are completely trustless. So they are validated directly by the subnet. You don't need any off-chain infrastructure that has any privileged role. So the only infrastructure you need is just to relay the messages, right? It's just send it from one chain to the other, but the validation actually happens on chain. And with Warp Message, Avalanche has built now the teleporter protocol, and this is what we're going to use to start launching bridges, which I believe we're going to talk a bit more about this later. So I'll wait for that.
Thanks, Bernie. I have another anonymous question. Can you explain more about sort of like merging or connecting other wallets to Lamina1? Especially, for example, like if merging like Web3 Auth and MetaMask, like how does that work on the platform? We've had a lot of like kind of questions and confusion, obviously, as people are getting set up, onboarding onto lamina1.com and kind of making sure that their accounts are in order and they have access to their things where they need them.
Yeah, I can follow up on that. So like Web3 Auth, we use currently Web3 Auth as like authentication method. So that's comes in handy, like because removes the friction, the user friction on initial setup. So you can come from a Web3 social login and easily get a wallet. But then we also allow for external wallets right now, just MetaMask, but we plan to have more in the future. And you can basically export your private key from Web3 Auth and then include it in other external wallets in case we just change the entire authentication process, which we don't intend to do. But here is we're like customizing and personalizing more and more the user experience with Web3 Auth as well. So moving forward, we're going to try to remove more and more user friction, but at the same time give the user more functionality in terms of like possibly in the future also account abstraction and so on. So it's like a debate that we've been having and discussing. we're discussing currently, but yeah, so you can always connect other wallets by exporting your private key from Web3 auth.
Awesome. Another question. Is this going to be friendly? Like, is the LAMINA1 platform friendly for people who are not familiar with NFTs or the internet, but are great creators? So we've gotten a lot of folks who are interested in joining LAMINA1, but maybe have never like owned a blockchain wallet before, have never really gotten into the NFT game. Is that like, how much of a learning curve is the platform, like from a realistic point of view? Will, you said you were going to take this one.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, part of our vision and our goal has been and will continue to be to make the platform more and more approachable to everyone, but especially creatives and their fans. We sort of like believe that Web3 tech works at its best when it's invisible in the background. And as Bernie said, we're constantly looking for ways to improve the experience for onboarding, for creating content, for publishing content, distributing, engaging with fans. These are all like features and processes that we'd like to enable with Web3 technology while putting like the intricacies and the complexities of it sort of behind the scenes. I don't think like we're quite there yet. I mean, you can see when you go to the hub, there are still some Web3 forward components. We are early, so we know that there's a big portion of our community early on that is familiar with Web3 technology, and it takes time to abstract away that complexity in a way that remains secure. But it is like a primary goal of ours every time we design a feature, every time we look at building new infrastructure. It's how do we make it more usable and more approachable? And so I think we've come a long way. I think the hub is a fairly approachable platform as is, but it'll keep getting better. So the goal is to just keep making it more and more approachable and more usable.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like just to kind of say like if you're having issues or if you have feedback on like how to make it more usable, particularly as a creator, like definitely let us know on Twitter, in our hub feedback forum, on Discord. We definitely like, as we kind of said when we kicked off Mainnet, like the chain is live, but the platform itself is still very much like in development. We're still very actively building the kind of front end of it. And we love all of the feedback. I think all of our community members who've been here for a long time kind of know that it's very much like a community and iterative effort together. Bernie, actually, you mentioned that you were going to kind of talk more about the potential bridge that we've been building. So Yoshi Berloni asked, will it be possible to bridge tokens between LAMINA1 and Avalanche? Like, is that on the roadmap? And can you give us a peek behind what you've been building?
Yes, it absolutely is. So I think we will have a question about this as well, but we do have an internal testnet that we use quite often. I don't know if this has been discussed in any other AMAs. And yeah, that's mostly where I build stuff. So every day I can just reset a network, deploy new contracts, just test out new features. And this is where I've been building these bridges. So we will have bridging. So we will want the native L1 token to be able to be on the Avalanche seed chain as well. And this will use the technology I mentioned earlier, the teleporter protocol from Avalanche, which has been fully audited. And yeah, we've been working very closely with the Avalanche team on this bridge because they've been developing it. We needed some modifications for our use cases. We did those modifications and then we talked to them. They like them, so they want to include them in their own stuff. They're also auditing those bridges at the moment. So yeah, we'll expect very soon to have more information about that, and a working version of this on the testnet first would be the goal, I believe, before we go and deploy it on mainnet. But yeah, it's all using the teleporter and warp messaging technology, which means it's completely trustless. So hopefully you don't have to worry anymore about bridge hacks. Like bridge hacks, as they happen in the past, usually it's because there's some compromise or some infrastructure that is privileged, like a relayer, and you can just go and mint tokens or steal them, right? So none of that is possible with the warp messaging and teleporter technology, and that's what makes it so strong and so good for our use case. But yeah, definitely we'll have bridging tokens between L1 and Avalanche, and even potentially other subnets that we can partner with.
Awesome. Yeah, and if anyone wants to take a peek at that, we actually have a full architectural diagram and kind of like a write-out of how that bridge is going to work on docs.lamina1.com if you guys want to check it out. So yeah, a lot of this stuff has been built. We're just waiting for the right time to deploy it. Speaking of sort of like test networks and stuff, Novi28 asks, so I see alongside Mainnet, we also just launched a new testnet on Avalanche's Fuji network. So Novi28 asks, like, how does Fuji testnet support the development and launch process of Lamina1 projects? Like, what stages should you or do you go through in testing on the Fuji testnet before launching to mainnet? Like, what is this environment designed for, and how should builders be thinking about using it now that, you know, the mainnet is live and we've made the transition from betanet?
Yeah, so like Bernie covered this a bit like in the previous answer. So we have that like a staging environment. So we start like implementing some features. Obviously, there's some code review on local development. But then like we have this Spaces testnet like that we can restart. So we can easily test a lot of these features on as we go. But it's super important to have the next step is the Fuji testnet, and this is super important to ensure compatibility and persistent state integrity. So this simulates real world conditions and so on, and only then we can deploy it on production, which is like mainnet. So we have like the hub, we have different websites that the hub is connected to different basically environments. And so for the space testnet, for the Fuji testnet as well, and then the mainnet. So this guarantees that every feature goes through a process and review and like kind of like the making sure that there's QA there before we reach production.
Awesome. So if I'm like a builder who's trying to like test out a smart contract or an experience on Lamina1, would I want to do that on the Fuji testnet first before launching on mainnet? Like, what's the process for like an external community builder and how to use it?
I think you generally want to develop locally first. So while you're catching all the actual issues in your code and making sure that, you know, unit tests are passing, that's all stuff you want to do locally. Once you're ready to start bringing other users into testing, I think that's when you start looking at deploying to Fuji. So that's where you do live user testing. If you want to, you know, interact with existing infrastructure in the Avalanche ecosystem, that's also on Fuji. That's a good thing to do in that environment as well. But yeah, I mean, I don't recommend like writing code and then going straight to Fuji. Definitely do it locally first, catch all your bugs, write good unit tests. And then when you're ready to bring other people into the fold, that's when you go to Fuji. And hopefully, if everything goes well there, then you should be ready to go to mainnet. Though if it's security critical, try to get an audit.
Yeah, I think I just launched a new interest group on our Discord called Project Launches. And I think like from personal experience, we have a really, really solid group of kind of testers within the L1 community that are always willing to kind of dive in, break things, give feedback. So I think like if you're hoping to launch a project and you do want like the Lamina1 community to kind of sign into Fuji with you and punch holes in it and, you know, kind of do some bug chasing and QA and give you feedback, definitely like post in Project Launches, tag me. Would love to keep an eye on everything that you guys are building. This is a super exciting time for us, obviously, because we're finally getting to the point where people, you know, we're getting the economy going. People are launching projects. I'm seeing, you know, people are already kind of selling NFTs on a de facto marketplace on our NFT channel, and the creativity is really already started to flow. And I think all of that activity is exactly what we want. So definitely like, let us know what you're building. Let us know what you want to test. We're happy to kind of help out and pull some community resources and kind of highlight your projects. I have a hot one in from Ed Keys. Speaking of people who have already built stuff on the platform since we've gone mainnet, but Ed Keys asks, why have you never published the identity services smart contract addresses and APIs, either for BetaNet or mainnet? This is supposed to be a great piece of infrastructure, but nobody else can use it. What's going on?
I'm sorry, Ed. No, it's not a secret. This is stuff we are going to release and open source. It's just, we have a staged process. Happy to give you endpoints and Abby's if you want to tap in and use the identity service for your application, but it is coming. Like I said, we're a small team. We had to get mainnet up and running first. And I think the next stage is that we're finishing code audits now. Once those are done and published, we'll start opening up some of the libraries.
Yeah, I have a little placeholder on additional resources and docs that are going to be for all of our audit contracts as well as our public GitHub repos that right now have little coming soons under those, but I'll let you guys know as soon as those are live. Squiddish asks, okay, let's say I'd like to create items in 2D or 3D on the LAMINA1 Studio. How much knowledge about like the Avalanche subnet architecture or LAMINA1 infrastructure in general, like, do I need to have? If in theory, like none at all, because of the awesome user friendliness of the LAMINA1 space, like what might be useful to have at least an idea of as a creator or designer trying to like launch on LAMINA1, get more into the Web3 space? Like as developers, like what are the things that you need to know or that you should maybe be aware of when you're kind of onboarding, even if you are like a complete newbie?
I can take that one. Yeah, I think because we're trying to build it to be so user-friendly, yeah, in theory, you don't need to know anything about the underlying infrastructure, right? You can just use the studio. You have created your artwork or your 3D item in the future, and you can see it in your profile. But yeah, eventually when you start integrating more things, kind of like, for example, NFT marketplaces or the ability to send your items to other subnets or use them in experiences that are on other chains on Avalanche, for example, I think that, yeah, being a creator, you should at least try and understand the basics of that. So like how a marketplace would operate, or what does it mean to like send your item over a bridge to a different chain. Of course, we will always want to make this easy for the user, so we want to abstract away all of this complexity as much as we want. But if you're interested in it, of course, I feel like those are the first things you should like start and learn about, or at least get a very simple idea of how things work.
Awesome. Thanks, Bernie. Space Degen asks, can you provide a sneak peek of any innovative features or improvements that are going to be highlighted in the upcoming mainnet infrastructure white paper that you guys are all dropping next week? Like, what can we expect now that we're past kind of like MVP mainnet launch status? What can we expect to roll out over the coming weeks, months, all that?
Yeah, I'll take this. Yeah, so this really is just the beginning. As you know, you'll go to the hub and you'll see it's fairly simple at the moment. We're currently racing to implement the next set of features, and some of those you'll see in the white paper. Some of it's marketplace functionality directly within the hub with enforceable on-chain royalties. Some of it's going to be around spaces as like a concept and as sort of an environment within which you can both create content, publish content, but also interact with your fans. There's the bridge technology that Bernie mentioned, which is going to be huge for connecting with the wider Avalanche ecosystem and then eventually beyond the rest of the Avalanche ecosystem. There's social technology that we're looking at. Basically the three engineers up here, we all come from a previous project called XX that was working on communications, decentralized communications technology. we're looking at trying to find ways to bring some of that social infrastructure, if not XX, some type of decentralized social infrastructure into the hub experience. You know, one of the things I don't like about sort of the onboarding experience right now is having to drag people out of the hub and into like Discord, and you know, it's been a powerful tool for us. But I think like direct, you know, social interactions within the hub and building, you know, reputation systems and follower systems within the hub is going to be like extremely powerful and important for making this like a more social and engaging experience. So that's all stuff that's in the pipeline and coming, and we'll talk a little bit more about in the white paper, as well as some other stuff. Yeah.
Great. Daniela Packy asks, are community members still able to claim L1 rewards for creating an account on Mainnet? Like, there's been some whisperings across the internet that we're giving away bonus rewards. Is that still available?
It is, yeah. I mean, so we have a couple of rewards opportunities at the moment. If you were live and active in BetaNet, then you probably receive some rewards, and those will be released in the form of a new airdrop coming up soon. If you're brand new to the network, anyone's able to receive free 5 unlocked L1 just by creating an identity and account within the hub, and then going to our Discord and going to the, I think it's the bonus rewards channel, and there's a Discord bot in there that'll give you 5 L1. And then, yeah, we're looking at, you know, more ways in the future to incentivize people to create content, engage, perform quests, all that fun stuff. So yeah, we have two opportunities at the moment, and probably more to come.
Yeah, so if you're listening in right now and you haven't created an account on lamina1.com, definitely go in there now. Everyone, sort of the first 100K users who create a wallet get that 5L1 drop. There will basically be a pop-up that shows up after you've set up an account and done your profile. So definitely get in, tell your friends to get in, limited time only. We wanted to make it a kind of nice surprise for new users who are onboarding, and also to give you guys, you know, enough tokens to really start creating content and engaging on the network while we wait for the airdrop to happen and token listing and all of the other stuff that's gonna really start powering the Lamina1 economy now that the chain is live. So Uncle Bogdan asks, kind of related question to the rewards bot is, can you tell me more about how you will fight the sibilants? So for anyone kind of tuning in and who hasn't been super active on the Discord, of course, any rewards bot comes with a slew of Web3 folks who are trying their hardest to break the rewards bot and break the system that we've built as much as possible. You know, classic degen behavior. We expected some of it, but obviously it's been a saga this week, shall we say. So Will, do you want to dive into sort of our Sybil fighting efforts that we've been engaged in this week, a little behind the scenes peek?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is a problem that everyone in this space faces, and I guess on the internet in general, which is, you know, how do you provide incentives to a community where you don't like strongly identify them without people trying to game it and take advantage of it? And it's hard to do, like, unless we do some like really strict KYC and we ask you to give us your ID card and we have some infrastructure in place for verifying it. Like, it becomes really difficult to keep people from gaming systems like this. We did have a couple, I don't know, we can't screen share. Bernie made a great graph of it. But yeah, so what happened was we deployed this rewards faucet, and like I said, all you have to do to receive a reward is create a hub account and set up an ID, and then you can go to the Discord bot and get free 5L1. So from what we can tell, Bernie did a tracing graph to see like all of the different wallets that were creating, claiming the reward and where they were sending the reward to. And yeah, we found a couple of people, I think somewhere in Nigeria and Armenia, who were taking advantage of the bot and creating a bunch of identities and a bunch of Discord handles and, you know, spamming the faucet. And I mean, on one hand, it, you know, power to them, because from what we can tell, they were doing it manually. So somebody was sitting there like 12 hours a day, clicking, creating accounts manually and claiming rewards. So I can't be too angry at them for that. But we did decide to take some stronger actions to limit that. So I don't know if I'm going to give all our secrets away in this
Yeah,
call,
right. In
but
case they're listening.
yeah, exactly. If you're here, like, I see you. But yeah,
we know
no,
exactly who you are.
I saw your IP address. No, but we put some protections in place. It's mitigated the problem significantly since we have. So I think, but again, it comes at a cost. Like, anytime you do something like this in any platform, you're trading convenience for security. And so, like, we try to be careful introducing friction into the onboarding process. And unfortunately, this was one of those times where we had to like increase it slightly. Because someone was gaming the system. But yeah, we're continuing to keep an eye on it. And yeah, I wish Bernie could show you his graph, because it was fun to watch.
I think it will eventually make it into a mainnet artwork.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
I'm pushing Bernie to have a profile, and he can release all of our rewards bot tracking data visualizations as NFTs.
It will be a collection, right?
Also, shout out to the community members who have been slanging items and identifying the farmers as well with us. There's been a little bit of vigilante justice going on against the rewards farmers too, which I personally think has been hilarious. So good job, guys. Keep the fight going. We're keeping up the fight on our end. And as you guys know, like Bernie doesn't just know who these people are. We have like entire graphs where we're tracking them, making sure that they don't get too many tokens. But again, I mean, I think shout out to all the community members who are our early alarm system and alert system for this happening. Obviously, you know, we want a ton of people to join the community, right? But we also want to make sure that, you know, people are playing fair and that people are being rewarded based on, you know, their hard work and their efforts and their creations on the network, not just, you know, how good they are at devoting 12 hours a day to clicking a rewards bot over and over again. But, you know, such is life.
Yes, if there's a silver lining in all of this, is I think everything we had in place before to fight actual bots, it's working properly. So we have no evidence that these are actual bots. It's just real people just banding together, or one person or multiple people just sitting there all day.
Yeah, super good learning curve. I think, like, for obviously the big upcoming airdrop that we're about to do for beta testers, it really helped us get our server security kind of on lock. Again, we're sort of prioritizing, like, how do we make it super easy to onboard and get involved in the community? We want it to feel good and fairly easy to get those onboarding rewards, but also we want to keep everyone safe and keep things fair. So it's definitely a dance. It's not an easy thing to do, but again, we appreciate you guys so much. Glassman asks, so how do you plan to decentralize the infrastructure of LAMINA1? So obviously we launched Mainnet with kind of like a small group of validators and a relatively kind of like small group of people kind of supporting the network. But, you know, obviously the success and longevity of any blockchain relies on, you know, a decentralized user base kind of working to support the network. So yeah, what are our plans for that?
Yeah, I can take that one. I would think in terms of centralized infrastructure right now, we don't have that much. So the two pieces we have right now are the Spaces server and ID bot. So the ID bot acts as both a faucet for ID tokens, so people can reserve their username, set their profile, basically in the hub in an invisible manner almost, right? It's hidden away. You don't interact with that faucet directly. The hub handles everything for you. And the other thing it does is to do the paid usernames. So when you want to reserve a paid username, you actually pay with real L1 on this main L1 subnet, and then the bot will reserve your username on the identity subnet. In this particular one, we have a plan to decentralize it, which is to use teleporter and warp messaging. So we can actually send a warp message from our subnet to the identity subnet to reserve a username. So you, as the user, would just pay the 1L1 on the L1 chain, and it would send a message to the identity subnet. Here's the address, like the username you need to reserve, the paid username. So this will remove the identity bot completely. It will just be a faucet. So obviously, if that faucet is down, then maybe new users cannot get a free username, or they can't set their profiles. But we can also address that in other ways, sort of like gasless relaying or gasless transactions, account abstraction. These are all things that we can do, which also have their own backends. They have their own services as well. So there's always chances that some service is down. Either way, we have active monitoring of all our infrastructure. We set that up just before mainnet launch. So we set up all this for all our environments, and it works quite well. The other thing is the Spaces server. So that's basically our gateway to IPFS, essentially. So whenever you're creating an item and you want to put that image and the metadata on IPFS, the hub is interacting with the Spaces server. And for that one, we have some ideas on how to solve that, which mostly would be by creating new subnets or creating new chains that are for decentralized storage directly. So in the future, you could be minting an item on LAMINA1 could be, for example, you interact with a smart contract on the L1 chain, you pay the gas or you pay some fee, and then the warp message is sent to our decentralized storage subnet, let's say, and it will send the data you want to store on that chain. So the hub will just abstract all of this away, and it would reduce the number of centralized points that we would have in our infrastructure. So yeah, a lot of exciting things to do there.
Awesome. Sumarno asks, so how is the airdrop distribution in mainnet coming? And I guess a follow-up question from BedLB8 is, why was the drop this week postponed? Obviously, lots of questions, a little bit of complaining, although a lot of folks also saying, like, take your time, make sure that, like, it rolls out properly, obviously, before we do it. So do you guys want to take a second to just take us behind the scenes of airdrop and all the stuff that we're preparing for that next week?
Yeah, I can take that one. So basically, the airdrop situation, how it works is like you have two different types of rewards, the on-chain rewards and the community rewards. And like the on-chain comes through your address, right? And so that's on-chain verification. But we found out recently from a few bugs coming from the community, there's like sometimes a mismatch between accounts using the same Web3 auth login process from BetaNet to Mainnet. And to address that and to also give some more functionality to the users, we have to make some changes in the airdrop in the implementation in the hub. So we allow the users to provide a different address where they can claim the rewards too. So this gives a bit more flexibility to the users from BetaNet if they want to change their wallet addresses from like the quest they did as well. So we're working on it. That's one of the reasons why it's postponed. But yeah, we'll come in shortly, and hopefully will come in handy to give more functionality and flexibility to the users, and also figure out solve these small bugs.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone is having an experience where they logged in to BetaNet with, say you logged into BetaNet using Discord, then you log into Mainnet using Discord as well, and your address has changed, definitely let me know. I've been trying to hunt down this bug for the last 2 weeks for the engineers, just because we got a couple of reports of it. And the way that our airdrop system was working before was that that would have potentially left you out of luck for your airdrop, which obviously is way less than ideal. So again, if you're experiencing that, let me know. But we think that we've come up with a solution that'll kind of help fix that for you, but it'll also help make it easier for folks who maybe had several accounts during BetaNet. Maybe they were launching projects and needed multiple accounts, or maybe they logged in via Web3 auth via a couple of different login methods. You'll be able to kind of like group those together and claim them under your mainnet address, which I think will be really nice for a lot of folks. So I'm excited for that. I had like 17 accounts during BetaNet that I'm excited to kind of like centralize myself and kind of be able to pull in. So
yeah, we just want to make sure.
reasoning.
We just want to make sure like we can like nail it down and see like who is actually eligible. As you can see, like from the claims, like people can try to game it, and we need to make sure like we have those Merkle proofs there in place, so we know what was actually eligible, and even if your address changed, we can sort it out and make it work.
Yeah, totally. So question from Jackal Girl 7, who asks, what ways, especially novel ones, are you thinking about to allow people to support the network beyond things like node operation or staking?
Jackal Girl, what a question. It's a great question. I've actually been working with Gordon and Bernie for the past 2 days to sort of revisit the economic proposal that's in place, to see, obviously, you know, it's a proof of stake network in principle. The infrastructure needs to be sort of secured by economic value, and that means staking is a critical portion of you know, keeping the infrastructure secure and live. But given that we're trying to become a creator and fan forward platform, it doesn't make a lot of sense to us that the only way to participate in that platform or get decision making power in that platform would be, you know, pure economics. So we're considering, like, what does social reputation look like in this network? How can we sort of get sort of a proof of engagement on the users in the network, you know, past staking, past economic activities? Like, can we get a measure of the ways that you're engaging both with content, with on-chain infrastructure, and then, you know, provide you or reward you with something like reputation that you can then leverage in various aspects within the platform. So we're working through that now to see if we can sort of grow the current proposal to include non-economic activities. And I hope we can share that with you guys soon.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you guys, some folks may have saw Peter kind of tapped into the announcement channels this week. He wants to do some competitive testing going on around the governance and tokenomics. Obviously, we had a big drop about a month ago of a first draft of our sort of governance and tokenomics plan. Got a ton of community feedback on it. And yeah, as Will was just saying, the team has really been working on, you know, testing it out. We did an internal sort of play test of the system ourselves that we learned a lot from, and we're hoping to bring the community in for some play testing as well over the next couple of weeks. So definitely stay tuned for that. But I think for anyone who's sort of asking, like, are there going to be changes to how governance works? Are there going to be changes to the tokenomics presented? I think, like, yeah, we're like definitely working through that really hard right now. So again, thanks everyone so much for your feedback on that. We're getting close to being able to share with you guys kind of a new adjustment to that plan, but fortunately I can't say much more about it than that. All right, Alchemist19 asks, so where do we go beyond mainnet? Or, you know, Avogdut also asks, you know, like, what's the future of the project? Like, where do you guys see us going now?
Yeah, it's a great question. So like I said, mainnet's just the beginning. We have some of those features I talked about in development that we're hoping to roll out in the next few months. Some of that's around governance. Some of it's around content creation and publishing outside of like just generic artwork. Some of it's about building a space around your IP and your ideas, and then being able to connect with other hub and community members in that space. And then social infrastructure around it. And what we hope that all leads to is like a deep and compelling content creation, distribution, discovery, and co-creation platform. So, and we have some, so that there's the feature set that supports that, but then there's also like, what are the featured projects and partners that are going to launch to sort of demonstrate that functionality. And that's all stuff we're lining up at the moment. Some really cool, exciting stuff that I don't think we can talk too much about at the moment, but you'll see it coming in the pipeline. But yeah, that's basically it. It's just making the platform a little bit more engaging, a little bit more usable, continuing to flesh out the features. And at this point, now that we're live in Mainnet, starting to onboard creatives and sort of larger IP holders or more notable IP holders, and getting them kicking the tires and seeing what types of things they can do in the platform and how they can engage with you guys and their fan base. So that's kind of what's on the roadmap for the next 3 to 4 months, I'd say.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. I think we're going to wrap up. We're quickly approaching the hour-long mark. Thanks, everyone, for joining our first ever Twitter Spaces test. It's been interesting. It's been fun. New platforms. Wanted to just see if this was going to give us more reach. I definitely missed the live chat log a little bit personally, but
yeah, same.
I know, right? So we'll have a conversation about that afterwards. But I'm going to drop the secret code for those who tuned into the session, basically just in the reply log of the AMA. It's basically the latest post on our Twitter page. It's L1 in INFR4 exclamation point. So definitely go into that. I see someone already liked it. But yeah, plug that into Zeely if you can. That's the secret code. And I'll be posting that alongside the recording of this session as well for folks who are tuning in later. Stay tuned definitely next week for airdrop, as well as the publication of the new Mainnet infrastructure white paper that's basically kind of going to lay out a lot of the stuff that Bernie and Balta and Will talked about in a new white paper. It's kind of an update to the original one that we released when we first started building in 2022, which seems like an eternity ago. And I'll kind of give you a bunch of insights into kind of like what the underlying infrastructure looks like now at Mainnet. Also, as I mentioned, we're going to be having the Open Metaverse Foundation on again very soon to talk about updates to their governance and tokenomics model. So I've been chatting with Peter about his availability for that. We want to get him on to chat with you guys in advance of the play tests that I mentioned earlier today. And again, for anyone sharing their thoughts and feedback and keeping an eye out for the network, keeping us safe, making sure that those rewards farmers don't get away with it. Thank you. We truly could not do this without you. And again, thank you so much to my hosts, Bernie, Balta, Will. Definitely hope to have you guys back on soon. I think like community really, really appreciates being able to kind of hear about the platform from the folks building it. And yeah, I think if you haven't already, just final CTA, get started, create an account on the LAMINA1 Hub. Just go to lamina1.com, sign in with whatever email or social handle or MetaMask wallet you prefer, and definitely get your L1 onboarding reward before it's too late. As we mentioned before, we're doling out 5 L1 to the first 100K members who join us. Those are actually like the first liquid L1 tokens that are really hitting the market. So definitely get in before it's too late. We've already refilled the faucet several times, and we really appreciate it. So again, you guys are all so early. Thank you all so much for joining us. And I'm going to end the space now. Appreciate it, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.